The following is a presentation of Voyescape Media. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
Well, welcome back to the Travel in 10 podcast. Joined again this week by Tim Johnson, our co-host. How's it going, Tim?
Good. How are you doing, David?
I'm doing great. What part of the world are you in today?
I am in the Bavarian Alps today. So I'm going to get this name wrong. It's a bit of a complicated name. Berchtesgaden, I think is how you pronounce it.
Right.
It is very, very close to Salzburg. I'm staying at a beautiful little plug, Kempinski Hotel. Every window that you look out is a mountain or a valley view. I mean, it's just an absolutely beautiful place. Very close to Salzburg. Sound of Music. I think people will be familiar with that, but it is on the German side of the border and it's an absolutely stunning place. So that is where I am, sitting tonight.
Nice. Well, we will have to record an episode on that part of the world here in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, on Berchtesgaden. Exactly. Yeah.
This week, we are heading to another iconic city, somewhere I know both of us have been a lot, New York. What do you love about New York?
Honestly, I love everything about New York. I mean, I know it's the slogan. I know it's the pitch line. I love New York, but I really do love New York. I mean, I feel like there's almost no other city in the world where you can walk out the door, turn right, turn left, and there's always going to be something happening. So there's an energy there that I just love. What about you? What's your favorite thing about New York?
It's no doubt it's one of the most iconic cities in the world. I've been fortunate, and probably over the last 12, 15 years, I've been there at least 3-4 times a year on business, and every time staying in a different part of the city, different neighborhood, and it's a totally different experience. And I find it's just constantly changing, right? Every time I go back to the city, there's something new great restaurants, new shows on. There is no end of cultural experiences that you can have when you're there, for sure.
Exactly. And that dynamism, right? Like the fact that it's, every time you go, it's a different city, right? There's always something new. There's always something different. Even if you go 3-4 times a year, you're going to find something new and something different. So
my latest trip was probably about a little more than that, probably about 2 months ago now, that I was there with my family. We were on our way to Athens, Greece, and we only had like a 10-hour stopover. But we're like, 10-hour stopover, that's enough time to get out of the airport. That's enough time to go see some stuff. And we jumped in an Uber, headed to Brooklyn, toured around there for probably 2-3 hours, and then right into Times Square, into the heart of things. It was my kid's first time ever in the city. And even just having that 10-hour stopover, like we packed so much into that short period of time. And
there's
New York's
so much,
place
right?
where you can certainly do that.
Because you can walk 2 blocks, and you can do 3 things, So I absolutely love it. The last time I was there was maybe 3 months ago in April. I was there for a sports themed trip and did soccer and did baseball and did an equally important sport, mini golf, all in 3 or 4 days, and it was amazing. I mean, there's just so much to do and so much to see. So anyway, again,
so somebody who's going to New York for the first time, maybe they're planning a trip to Manhattan, they've never been there before. What would you say in terms of like what to do? What would be the iconic experiences, the things that you would recommend you've got to do while you're in the city?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure. Go to a Broadway show. I mean, there's so many different shows running all the time. You can go, to TKTS and get, half price tickets. I remember the days when you used to have to take cash, to the office and buy the half price tickets and wait in line for an hour. And it's different now. But there are so many. There's plays, there's musicals, there's one-man shows, there's one-woman shows. There's so much happening all the time on Broadway. So I absolutely love Broadway. And then just a second thing is I always recommend taking the Staten Island ferry. Very, very inexpensive. It's part of the transit system in New York City, so you don't have to pay for a tour, but it takes you across. I mean, if I'm ever in doubt and I'm looking to fill a little bit of an afternoon. I'll take the Staten Island ferry across, and then back you cross right in front of the Statue of Liberty. And you have the whole city around you for $2, $3, something like that. So it's incredible. What about you? What are your go-to things in New York?
I mean, for somebody going for the first time, I think MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, is, of all the cultural institutions in town, for me, that's one of my favorites, and definitely somewhere that I end up going on almost every trip and spending some time at. So I would highly recommend that. In terms of getting around the city, you're right. Like Staten Island Ferry is great. Subway is obviously a great way. But something I did for the first time, I guess probably about a year ago when I was in New York, was getting a city bike. They've got the City Bike app where you can rent these e-bikes, all throughout the city. I rented one in Central Park and took it all the way to Wall Street, on the other end of Manhattan. And it took me maybe, 45 minutes or so. It was probably faster than going by Uber or by Subway. And, you got to see so much being on a bike, super easy way to get around. And then a few days later, I rented a city bike again and went from where I was staying in sort of the downtown Wall Street district, across the Brooklyn Bridge over to the Time Out Market in Brooklyn, the Time Out Food Hall, which I would highly recommend. It's like they've sort of curated a lot of these, the best food trucks and some of the best restaurants, best donut place in New York, and like brought them all together in one food hall. So, within, one quick visit, you can hit a lot of the iconic pizza places, the iconic donut places, all that have been curated in this really cool food hall in Brooklyn that overlooks the Brooklyn Bridge. And there's so much around that area as well. Some great pizza places there, a ferry then that you can, I took the city bike one way and then jumped on a ferry and took the ferry back over across to sort of downtown Manhattan. From there as well. So that was definitely a favorite for me.
That's fantastic. And I mean, food halls are definitely a strong point in New York City. I mean, I love Eataly. I think the original Eataly was in New York City. And, last time I was there, I went to 2 or 3 other food halls. So it is such a great way.
And if somebody hasn't been to Eataly, I mean, do you want me to talk about what Eataly is?
So Eataly, it's an Italian themed food hall. So you can get pizza and pasta and all the different flavors of Italy, both sort of red sauce American style Italian as well as authentic Italian, all in one place. And I might be wrong on this, and the listeners can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the original Eataly was in New York City, and I mean it's a very impressive place. And I mean they're all over the world now. You can go in Tokyo and other places, but yeah, food halls are definitely a huge strength in New York City. Yeah.
I know we talked about in our What to Do is Broadway shows. One thing that I've found that I've really enjoyed there, for sure, Broadway shows I've gone to every time I've been to New York, but also you can go tapings of so many live shows that are there as well, that if you plan ahead a little bit, I mean, obviously Saturday Night Live, that's the iconic one, a little tough to get tickets to. It's sort of a lottery system and you've got to apply well in advance, although you can also do the standby line the day of and get in. I've never managed to get in on that one, although I've tried a few times, but I have got in for tapings of the Colbert Show. Again, that's like a lottery system, free tickets. And Seth Meyers, I know, tapes his late night show out of New York as well. So that's always a great experience as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, SNL, I think it's one of the toughest tickets in town. Again, the same as you. I've never actually been. I know people who have been to the dress rehearsal, which is kind of a good consolation prize. But I did go to Colbert a few years ago. I have a friend who worked for CBS and she got me a ticket, which was wonderful. And it was maybe my biggest claim to fame because the guy sitting behind me, I chatted with him in the ticket holder line, and I knew that he'd been Stephen Colbert's college roommate. And then the producers came up and talked to him and they said, Stephen's going to come up and he's going to do the shout out for the next show, basically tune in tomorrow night. We've got Sharon Stone or whatever. And I knew he was going to come up the aisle. So when he came up the aisle, I actually stepped out into the aisle and we were all, clapping and, a little high energy. And it was basically 3 people in the shot, me, Colbert, and this college roommate guy. And it was like maybe the most, like my biggest claim to fame. So, and I have a friend who saw it and like filmed it on his phone to his TV or whatever and sent it to me, and that was kind of a fun moment. But Colbert was incredible, and yeah, TV show tapings are definitely a great thing to do in New York City. I'd love to go to Fallon. I think Fallon's in New York City.
Fallon tapes there as well, and I think now too post COVID that the NBC studio tours have reopened again now too, where you can. Even if you can't get into one of the tapings themselves, you can at least go behind the scenes and see some of the studios and stuff as well.
Absolutely. And Rockefeller Center is just a great attraction in itself, going to the top of the rock. And I mean, it's one of the kind of high altitude experiences you can do in New York City, where you can see the whole city, including the Empire State Building, and the whole city is around you. So Rockefeller Center is a great place, and everything with NBC is great as well. Yeah.
Lots of amazing places to eat. Any favorites that jump out to you?
For sure. I mean, it's kind of a tourist favorite. Maybe it's, but Katz's Deli. I love Katz's Deli. Went with a friend. I was there again 2-3 months ago, and I mean, it is crazy, right? It's busy and it's crazy, but you get that big stacked up corned beef sandwich, and you get that beautiful pickle, and it is all worth it. I love Katz's Deli. And then one other place, I mean, New York style pizza is such a famous thing. I went to a place called Grimaldi's, which is in Dumbo, so it's over on the Brooklyn side. And you do have to wait in line. It is a bit of a pain in the butt, but when you get in and you try that pizza, and it's that cheesy, gooey, beautiful coal brick oven pizza, Grimaldi's, it is it's very, very good. So those are kind of my two big recommendations. What about you? What's
a couple of go-tos? I mean, for pizza, there's the One Bite Pizza app that Dave Portnoy goes around New York and does pizza reviews all the time, and right. So that's always good to download and check out where some good recommended spots are wherever you are in New York. There's a lot of different cool like speakeasy type places in New York. One that I've been to a number of times, I've always found has been great. Beauty in Essex, where you go into this pawn shop. You have to know the right door to go to, and then suddenly it opens up into the back of the shop, and there's this beautiful restaurant behind it, and a great place for celebrity sightings and great food as well. And another kind of celebrity sighting place, Locanda Verde in Soho, which is owned by Robert De Niro. It's in his hotel there in Soho, beautiful hotel as well. But a great brunch spot. So that's somewhere I would definitely recommend on a Sunday morning. It's always been great anytime that we've had a chance to make it there.
Absolutely. I mean, so much good food in New York. And I mean, the world comes to New York, right? So you've got any cuisine you can imagine in New York, and you just have to walk a couple blocks to find it. And there's so many good things to eat in that city. Yeah.
Now, one thing, I mean, I would say staying in New York is, particularly if you're going with the chain hotels, they can be really small, almost microscopic rooms at a lot of the big chains. But it's also a place where, boutique hotels really started to take off, and some iconic boutique hotels. Have you got, what are some of your go-to places when you're in the city?
Well, I love the William Vale, which is on the Brooklyn side. And it has probably the most beautiful view of Manhattan that you can find in the city. I mean, and really great views, very much integrated. I believe it's in Williamsburg on the Brooklyn side. So you've got, coffee shops and great restaurants and all these wonderful little places all within walking distance. So you've got everything you need all around you, and then you go up to the pool, you go to the restaurant, and you've got this view of across the East River of Manhattan, which is wonderful. And then, I mean, chain hotels. I mean, I love the upper floors at the Thompson Hotel. I stayed there. I want to make sure I said it right. Is it the upper stories? The upper stories at the Thompson Hotel. It is about 2 or 3 blocks to Central Park. So, you always have that there if you want to go out for a walk, whatever, it's just right, always there. And it was such an interesting place. The rooms are beautiful and actually quite large. And I felt like I was sort of suspended over Midtown Manhattan, almost like I was, I don't know, in a hot air balloon or something. And you could look down into all these offices and, I mean, maybe I'm revealing too much, but I was sitting there in my boxer shorts, drinking out of a carton of milk or whatever. And, you had all these guys in suits, sitting at, meetings, around the boardroom table or whatever. But right in the middle of everything, a beautiful hotel. And instantly, I mean, I stayed there for the first time maybe 2 months ago. Instantly one of my favorite hotels in New York City. But yeah, what about you? What are some of your favorites?
Well, I'm going to throw out a bunch of recommendations. I've
Sure.
stayed all over the city.
Sure.
One of my favorite areas to stay in is Soho, because you've got a lot of cool boutiques, a lot of cool restaurants there. 3 great hotels there. The Crosby Street Hotel, if money's no object, that's got probably some of the nicest hotel suites in the city at the Crosby Street Hotel. If you're looking for a little bit more affordable, but still a really nice boutique hotel, a great location, the Soho Grand. If you're staying on points, Bonvoy points, there's one called the 11 Soho, part of the Marriott chain. That's a chain hotel, but or part of a chain group, but very much a boutique hotel in a very cool part of the city. So that would be my Soho recommendations. Another area I love is the Meatpacking District. There's some really cool spots there. The Mercer, probably one of the most happening hotels in the city, I would say. Always lots of events and stuff going on there. And then the Standard as well, the Standard High Line, where they've got a huge beer garden downstairs, a super exclusive nightclub that I could never get into up on the top floor.
I think you could get in. I believe in you. I really do. I think you could get in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you're looking for budget choices, the 3 that I would call out on more of the affordable end of the spectrum. Arlo, they're like micro rooms, but some really cool ones. Like I stayed at one that even had an outdoor shower and a little patio on it.
Wow.
In this,
Safari
like, they're
style.
micro rooms, really inexpensive, but some really cool features to it. So the Arlo, and they've got a couple of different locations throughout the city. Yotel, which again, it's like they've got some capsule type rooms, and again, very micro hotel, not far from Times Square, so a very central location. And then the Moxie Hotel downtown in the Wall Street district, where they've got a basketball court in the hotel. They've got a really cool check-in area as well. That's a great budget choice. Another one that if you're looking to stay on points, a good option as well.
Absolutely. And I love the Moxie as well. I've stayed there. Surprisingly large rooms, very cool, great location. So, I do love the Moxie as well. Do you have any... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we were doing a terrible job of staying to our 10-minute.
I know. Well, I mean, it's New York. I mean, how can you do New York in 10 minutes? I mean, there's so much, we could do 10 hours on New York. It's amazing. Well, maybe we'll sort of wrap it up with, what's your can't miss? What's your final tip? What's your, when you're in the city, you can't leave without doing this one thing, or should I share it? Yeah.
The one thing that I have done on almost every single one of my recent trips to New York, for me, the can't miss, is the Comedy Cellar. It's this, old school comedy club right near NYU. You go down into this basement. It's jam packed with people every night of the week. And one great thing about it too is they've got shows going till like 2 a.m. So if you're there on business or something, you're busy all day, you can still go, and catch a show late at night. And there's going to be, 3 sets of shows throughout the night. So you can always catch somebody, and you get iconic comedians dropping in to, work out sets before they go tour nationally all the time. So you never know who you're going to see there. A lot of Saturday Night Live cast members will show up on a regular basis. Any iconic comedian has at some point performed at the Comedy Cellar, and even if it isn't, somebody well known, anytime I've gone, I've just had a great experience.
Absolutely. And the last time I was in New York, I went to the Comedy Cellar for the first time. Had an amazing time. I heard, I was listening to a podcast recently where Amy Schumer said she tries out all her new material there. I caught like like you said, like an 11 p.m. show, and it was fantastic. It was really, really good. For my kind of,
it's got some weird, quirky things about it. I remember though, like I think you can only buy tickets on their website in advance, and there's like a limited number of days, and they only take cash, I think, once you get there. And
and they have like two or three different venues, and I was in like I'm gonna mess up. It was like the Purple Cat or something like that. It was,
I think, that's right.
Something like that.
Like the main club, and then they've got 2 satellite clubs that are within like a block of it as well. And
exactly.
Sometimes comedians will show up at one and not the other, or sometimes they'll hit all 3 of their locations in one night.
Exactly. And I think I walked up with a friend without tickets, and they said, "Okay, stand here." And then we had to wait and wait and wait and wait. And I think we got the last 2 spots for the 11 p.m. show, or we'd have to wait for the 12 p.m. show or 12 a.m. show. But it was hilarious. I mean, they had, I don't think we had any sort of named comedians that night, but the guy who was emceeing the show was hilarious. And they had, there was so much. It was very, very funny. Guys doing crowd work, and I love stand-up comedy, so that's one of my favorite things. And I'll just say quickly, because I know we got to wrap up, my must-do thing is a baseball game at Yankee Stadium up in the Bronx. I don't like the Yankees. I'm a Blue Jay fan, from birth, basically. We play in the same division. The Yankees beat us a lot, but when I was there, we kind of sat out near the bleachers. I went to 2 of 3 games in a series against the Blue Jays, and they have these guys, the bleacher creatures, who kind of call out to the outfielders at the start of the game, and they'll keep calling their name until the outfielders respond. So each of the 3 outfielders, and it's kind of this cool interaction between fans and these $1 million stars that I've never seen at a baseball game. And you think New York City, you're going to have a lot of insulation between the big stars and the crowd, but these guys, they'll call out the names, and the guys have to either wave or kind of shrug their shoulders or give some sort of recognition. And then the game can sort of continue. And I mean, that whole atmosphere in the Bronx is incredible. So love New York City. Again, I love New York.
One final tip I would throw out is, I know we talked a little bit earlier about Broadway shows and the TKTS app, and that's how I always used to get tickets for shows whenever I was in the city. You've got to go kind of line up down in Times Square, and I think they've got one other location as well. And, you can get same day tickets. But the other thing that I found on my last few trips is there's a pretty good app called Today Tix, where you can get also half price tickets for shows, and often you can buy them much further in advance. So sometimes they're selling them weeks or even months in advance with discounted tickets as well. So that's a good option to check out as well.
Absolutely. Anytime you don't have to line up, that's a good thing. So that sounds like a very good app. I've never used it, but it sounds fantastic.
Okay, well, we'll be back next week. In the meantime, would encourage people to check out, we just launched our new website a few weeks ago at voyescape.com, where we've got more episodes of the Travel in 10 podcast and some new travel podcasts coming there as well. And also starting to build out some travel guides for the destinations that we cover that people will be able to go on and download there over time as well.
Great. Love traveling with you, David, and New York City is one of my favorite places. So really enjoyed this.
Look forward to catching up next week. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, talk to you next week. Thanks, David.
You've been listening to a podcast from the Voyescape Podcast Network. You can find all of our podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.